Welcome to episode 54. I'm really hoping I got that right. We are not doing live episodes yet. We are doing, this week is Black Swan by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. Think I'm saying that correctly. Apologize if I'm not. This is January 8th through January 14th. That's the week of. My final fire week, as I'm working on the fires and wrapping up stuff in California. That's what the week's about. I'm a little behind. So as usual, we're not doing live videos yet. These videos are still catch-up videos, but I'm still reading a book a week, still doing the reviews. Getting jazzed up, 2018 is here and moving. Let me jump right into Black Swan. So the way that this works is I read a book, then I write down some quotes, and I read you guys the quotes. So I really liked Black Swan. It started off a little rough for me. That's a book on investing. It's on speculative investing. And it started off very, very rough because it started off political and it started off a little contradictory to what a black swan is. Now, a black swan, for those of you who don't know what a black swan is, every swan is white. Except for every once in a while there's a black swan. And it's just an anomaly. We don't really know why there's a black swan, but it's an outlier for sure. So this book is on investing and how to find black swans, right? How do you find, I'm going to back this video up just a little bit. How do you find Facebook, before it's Facebook? How do you find rags shirts before it's rags shirts? I'm giving you a hint. Rag shirts is going to blow up in Northern California and Stockton. I don't know if they are. I like them. They're fantastic. I'm going to give you guys a shout out. But how do you find something that's going to blow up before it does? How do you find Bitcoin before Bitcoin blows up? And how do you get out of Bitcoin before Bitcoin drops? That's the trick right there. But how do you do that? Like, how do we recognize these trends and how do we capitalize on them? The reason why I was a little shaky on how the book started was because it started talking about the Lebanese conflict and how no one saw that coming. Like, no one saw Jewish and Palestine conflict coming. Nobody saw that coming? You mean the verse in the Bible where it says that those two tribes will fight for all of eternity? Didn't see it coming. It came out of nowhere. That's crazy. It got really political. A lot of Christian bashing. A lot of the poor Palestinians and the poor Muslims and the Holy Crusades that were in no way a response to extremely brutal tactics by people of Muslim descent. Listen, Crusades were horrible. What happened before the Crusades were horrible. Any war that is killing people for no reason is horrible. Not trying to get political with it, but they definitely did. And it was like, the first couple of chapters was like, what are you talking about? So that was really weird. Once we got into the meat of it, actually turned out to be a fantastic book. So I think what happens is, and I'm sure I do this, like, we give ourselves a platform, right? I've created a platform for myself. Oh, and by the way, yeah, there's definitely a phone on the wall. So if you need, the cool thing about this phone on the wall, if you need something, right? It's not like a pay phone, like outside that you got to pay. Like it's on. I could just call, and I can go anywhere. I can go anywhere as long as the cord. I don't know if you guys got onto this technology, but something to look into. Talking about black swans. Yeah, it's phone on the wall. Where were we? We're talking about speculative investing and how to spot those trends. Talking about black swans and how they sneak up. So I'm going to be honest, I have no clue where that went. I was distracted by that. But if I start with the quotes, I'm going to end right back where we left off, I'm sure. Um, Bestsellers are unpredictable. I don't know why I wrote unpredictable. This was the meat of it got really good. That's where I was. Boom, and we're back. When we give ourselves platforms, right? Um, I've made a platform here for myself. We tend to use those platforms to kind of push our core beliefs. And when we have opportunities to push those core beliefs, instead of holding off on pushing those core beliefs, sometimes we push them when we shouldn't. I feel like that's what the first couple chapters of this book was. It was a push of these are my political views, so I'm going to insert them here because I'm having an opportunity to speak, when really this is a book about investing in speculative investments, and I don't think it was applicable, but it's in there. So first couple chapters, a little shaky. One of the first quotes that I pulled from this book that I love is have a job that is scalable. They talk about this in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. They talk about this in Richest Man in Babylon. They talk about this in so many books that I read last year. Have a job that's scalable. If I have a job in which I now do, right? I'm working fires, right? I'm working fires. My job is not scalable, meaning there are only 12 hours in the working day that they will pay me for. I'm grateful to get the 12 because most jobs will only pay me 8, right? But they're only going to pay me for those 12 hours. And there's only 7 days in the week that I can work, right? And they're only going to pay me for those 7 days a week. Now, they're paying me a buttload of money to do the work. Don't get me wrong. And I'm pulling in some serious cash doing it. But it's not scalable. There is a cap. There's a cap at like $220 for the year. If I worked every day, never took a day off, every single day, racked up a gross amount of overtime, I could probably walk away with $220 for the year. But that's it. And I say that's it because me working every day is unreasonable. It can't be done. It's not even possible. Eventually my body would shut down. Especially if I'm going to try to maintain any type of relationships with my family or anything. You know, you just can't do it. So have a job that's scalable. That means have a job that not only pays you, but can residually pay you later on. I have several different projects that I'm working on. The best example is a book. You know, if you create a book, right? Once the project is created, it's there. My book is on Amazon. It's a children's book. I got a couple children's books, but the one that I'm pushing right now is There's an Owl on Our Car, right? If I die tomorrow, that book will still be there and it will still be scalable. Meaning 1 million people could buy that book tomorrow. Will they? Probably not. I got to break through the obscurity and I got to get it out to them. I got to get it to market. But it's there and it has no cap, right? The cap that it has is the amount of people that are in the world that speak English, right? We'll say all the people in America, the 300 million cap, a 9 billion cap. If everybody in the world buys it on Amazon for $3, all right, that's my cap. But that's scalable, right? Next quote. Oh, this is a little political, and amazingly, I think it leans political because we talk about it, but I think it's just economics. I think this is just good economics. There's a book called Economics in One Lesson that you should check out that I read last year. That's all about this. It has to do with bankers. When bankers take risks, they take high risks, they reap the rewards, right? But when it doesn't pay off, the customers of that bank pay the price for it. The bankers don't. This is why subsidizing business is never an economical solution to the problem. I feel like I'm banging my head against a wall every time I say that to somebody. They're like, oh man, we should do clean energy, we should do this, and the government's gonna subsidize it. Stop. Someone called me, but that's cool. It's like good effect. They like shut down the camera. Stop. No, that doesn't work. Subsidizing one doesn't work. It causes more problems. Because if you were in Vegas, right? I'm in Vegas and my buddy comes up to me and he's like, "Hey bro, here's $1,000. No, here's $10,000, right? Now it's gonna hurt him. Here's $10,000. Go make some crazy bets, and if you win, give me my $10,000 back plus 10% interest. That's my investment. It's pretty risky, bro. Are you sure? Yeah, go ahead. And I can keep the rest? Yeah. Am I going to be smart with that $10,000? No. Because if I lose it, I lose nothing, right? He loses. Now, if I win, I get all the rewards. If I lose, who pays the bill? He pays the bill. That's what subsidizing business is like. That's what bailouts are like. It just empowers the people to make even riskier moves with your money. This quote was in there because it's leading towards speculative betting and how to do that with your money and not win consistently, but to take risk that is educated. I went off there because that really ticks me off. Win bankers, okay, speculative, prove yourself wrong. Oh, this was an interesting exercise. It's when speculating, I'll just do the exercise with you. That makes it a lot easier. Think about this statement. Joe seemed happily married. Joe killed his wife. That statement doesn't make sense to us, right? That they don't go together. The statements don't speculatively, they don't go together, right? Same sentence. I'm just going to add a phrase. Joe seemed happily married. Joe killed his wife for the insurance money. Oh, for the inheritance. Sorry, for the inheritance. Ah, now I get it. That makes way more sense to me. The first statement didn't make sense, although it was true. It didn't make sense to us because when we're looking at black swans, we don't always have the full vision. I thought that was pretty insightful. I like that little quote, that little story. I find it interesting that we use reliable Gladwell. I don't know exactly what I was talking about, but I do understand. I quoted Gladwell here, Malcolm Gladwell, and his bomb. When the bombs were going off in London, people, because they survived, right, became fearless. And I think what I was trying to get at in this, I'm going to swipe this up. Dave Rozzo, you're calling me while I'm recording. Get out of here, Dave. No, stop texting me. Oh my God. Last one. Okay, so when we're in the market, we're in the stock market, right? And everything's going like consistently well. We are dodging bullets left and right. We assume that we are invincible. We can't die. And that's what happened to people when bombs were dropping on London. The Nazis actually thought it was going to drop morale. And Malcolm Gladwell states that it actually boosted morale because people felt invincible. People would hide together in their bomb shelters, and it brought the community closer together, like literally closer together. And people said, hey, bombs hit my building and I lived. They said, that's the end of it. You feel invincible, you can't die. I've been hit by a car before. The car was going very fast. I was jogging. Clearly, I'm pretty hard to kill. But you get a sense of invincibility after things like that. It's like, I'm tough to take out. You can't. My brother Thomas has a quote. He said one of his students at a school threatened to kill him. And my brother said, all right, I'm pretty hard to kill, bro. Best of luck to you. And it gives you that feeling of like, okay, like I'm invincible. So I think we experienced that in the stock market when I experienced this with Bitcoin, right? Because I had a little bit of money in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin was like flying through the roof, and we are literally dodging bullets, and then it just goes, and it drops off the face, right? It came out of nothing, and it drops out of nothing, right? Thought I was fine, Why? Because I'm dodging bullets on the way up and everything seems fine and I feel invincible. There's a book called What I Learned Losing $1 Million, and he says, on your rise up, you look for signs that everything will go correct. But this book mentions it as well. As soon as we start rising up, we need to start looking for things to go wrong. Meaning, what are all the reasons that this is a bad idea? And as we look for reasons that it's a bad idea, those reasons will either make no sense or they'll stand out as red flags and we can jump and get off the ship before it crashes. And so, again, multiple books mentioning the multiple things. They're exactly the same. It's not a coincidence. These people didn't talk before they write. All the information's the same. I've been saying it for a couple months now. There's not that much information out there. Everybody's saying the same things. After you read a certain amount of books, it's like, I get it. This is how these things are going to play out and how they're going to work. Probability. This was pretty cool. Probability is a liberal art. All of the risks that are affected in a casino come from the outside. It's called the ludic fallacy. Games in a casino give us the impression that they reflect the real world, right? But in fact, a casino is the only place in the known world where all the odds are almost computable, right? A casino is a place where, got him, dead. I'm still quick. A casino is a place where all the odds, you know the odds, they're computable. If I put, we'll do roulette. If I put all my money on one section, it's roughly 1/3 chance to win, right? If I put them on two sections and split the difference, 2/3, right? Then I got 2/3 chance to to win, but I'm risking twice as much money, right? They're computable. And as the odds come out, they almost come out exactly what the odds should be over a long period of time. The longer span of time, the more computable they become. But unfortunately, that doesn't reflect the real world at all, actually. But we have this ludic fallacy that we think it does. And that's not how these big companies blow up out of nowhere. They literally are black swans. They come from left field, so to speak. I found it was interesting. They used something called a hedgehog concept. You will hear this in a book called Good to Great. And in Good to Great, it's used as a idea to zero in on what you do well and keep your business simple. In this instance, it was used as a negative attribute of single-mindedness. And I thought that was interesting that they used the hedgehog concept in a negative way. Same word, different meaning completely. A view on, ownership of knowledge. This is, again, this leans political. And I found it very interesting that the first part of the book leans politically left. And the second part of the book leans politically libertarian. We talked about subsidizing business, and typically that would be a left-leaning issue, where bailouts would be, actually maybe that's a right issue. I don't even know anymore. I've been a libertarian, I don't care what people do, so maybe that is a right issue, bailing out banks. Definitely should not do that. But this one seems like a right-leaning issue, pretty hard. It's talking about colleges and ownership of knowledge and tenure. How we let people grab knowledge and own it as if they have a monopoly on it. You know, we're talking about, I was talking to a friend the other day about college and how useless degrees are now. Everybody has a degree. It's useless. 20% of our jobs require degrees and 80% of people have them. That's dumb. I mean, 60% of people have degrees and aren't using them. point in case, you know. I've done sales for the last 6 years, whether it's selling my own products or selling someone else's products. And I only used my master's in kinesiology for about a year and a half. Maybe about 2 years. We'll say 2 years I used it. Fantastic. I loved it. I love working out. I love wrestling. I love fitness and all the above. Only problem is not very many people make over 80 grand doing that stuff. And world domination takes a little bit more. So I just found it really interesting that there's this ownership of knowledge, and it leans very, very left, which doesn't really, it should be dead center. I mean, you would need, colleges should be a place for open thought. That's my consensus. You need left views, you need right views, you need center views, you need religious views, you need atheist views. The colleges should be the only place where, I mean, if any place, right? If any place, colleges should be the place of free thought, and they aren't, which is disconcerting to me. I forget why it was in the book. I mean, I'm not seeing a link. I'm just seeing that the ownership of knowledge by tenured teachers and professors it was a little disconcerting for this person as well. I think probably because, again, we're talking about speculative investment, and we're told to go to school, get a safe job, you know, do the safe thing. I was talking to one of my friends the other day about the wage gap and how people who are in the middle class and the lower class are traveling at 5 miles an hour because they're saving their money, right? They're not traveling at 1 mile an hour. People who don't save at all, right? If you have a job, you don't save, you go paycheck to paycheck, you're not moving, right? But at least if you're saving, you're traveling at 5 miles an hour. Problem is, people who are well off are investing a lot of their money and making capital gains on it, and they're moving at 10 and 15 miles an hour. So every year they get significantly further, and the wage gap grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. And if you are a middle class person stuck in a 30-year mortgage, you are the poorest person in America, and you won't know it for another 30 or 40 years. That's why you have a job that's scalable. That's why you do speculative investing. And that's why you don't trust ownership of knowledge from people who have tenure, who are counting on their pensions. I mean, they're fine. They're telling you to play it safe because they know they're fine, right? Because they know that the next generation will bail them out and get further in the hole. But they're playing it safe, and they're feeding you the same lie that you're being fed right now, that they were fed. Check out Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Kawasaki. I think it's Robert Kawasaki. That's a great book to read on that subject. I love that I just know books. I am almost able to quote books and movies. It's freaking awesome. It only took a year, and I'm getting there to where I'm starting to expand the brain. The cloud is gone. Dispersing that cloud. Optimization is an attempt to specialize a simplistic process such as stock market exchange, i.e. the turkey problem. So optimization, how do we optimize the process of trading stocks? It really is the turkey problem. The turkey problem is everything's good if we just do it this way, right? Hey, you're just going to put it in medium risky investments, right? And then it's going to gradually grow you about 6, 7, 8%. That's good. And as long as you grow 6 or 7, 8%, you're going to be good for retirement, right? All is well. It's the turkey problem. You're getting fed every day. You're nice and warm, and you're safe, right? Or maybe you're just getting fed up for the kill. It's the turkey problem. We've oversimplified stocks and said, if you just do it like this, you're going to gain your 6 or 7 or 8. Your 6 or 7, 8% is real solid. You talk to any financial advisor, they're going to be like, yeah, 6 or 7, 8, real solid. Till you subtract the 3 or 4% for inflation. Okay, so now my 6 is no longer 6. Now it's 3 or 2. So I'm making 2% returns on investments. That's horrible. That's a horrible return. Yeah, you're getting set up for slaughter. Again, I've just been chatting with friends on investment, reading this book and reading the others this last year, and this last I want to say December, all of January. I say all of January. I know I'm a little behind, a couple weeks back, but I've really been diving into investing and talking about how I can make my dollars that I put in my investment pot go further. And I'm looking for anywhere from 12 to 16% returns on investments because I already know about the turkey problem, right? I knew about the turkey problem before I read this, but it's just reinforcing those beliefs that I have. Sometimes it's better for us to follow instead of being alone with a perfect introspective direction. Psychopaths also have followers. Think about that. People who are psychopaths are able to get followers. So just because you're going in the same direction as everybody else does not necessarily mean that it is the correct direction. This is the sum of this is the solution that the book gives us. 80% of your investments in the market are conservative, right? 80% conservative, meaning low return. You're talking about that 6%, 6%. We got 4 to 6%. Awesome. 80% of your money, go ahead and put it there. That's awesome. But 20% of your money needs to be speculative. I'm talking 25, 30% returns. Because first off, they're impossible to predict, right? So one of the things that I did is I called my buddy, Chris Cox. He's going to be on the show. We're going to have live people on the show coming up here in a couple weeks. He's going to be on the show a little later this year. And we talked about IPOs, initial public offerings. Like, how do I get in on IPOs, right, before they go public? Like, where the companies, as they're starting to announce, how do I get in on investing them on before? And then when they do go IPO, how do I buy them right away? And then a strategy for doing that. And so those are the type of investments that you're trying to do. I mean, you're trying to buy Apple before it's Apple, and when you do a speculative investment with 20%, the safe and the risky that fluctuates ends up being this nice, consistent 12 to 16. At least that's the attempt. And obviously, this is just a regurgitation of the information that I read. That way, you can spend 18 minutes hearing from me and some of my friends about the books we're reading, get some insight, maybe pick some books that you like. If you hear it, you like it, and you don't have to spend the 10, 12 hours that it took us to go through this, take notes, and regurgitate it back to you. So I appreciate you guys watching. Again, this is Dispersing the Cloud, episode, I think this is 54. Episode 54, second episode of 2018. Next week, Do Hard Things. It's a book by Alex and Brett Harris. They are two teenagers. Well, they're not teenagers anymore, but when they wrote the book, they were teenagers. That's all I got for you guys. Normally I end with a quote, and I am going to attempt to say this. It is a Latin phrase, and every once in a while I'll pick up a Latin phrase from one of these books. I just suck at Latin. I'm trying to get better at it. Flu tic tu mergerture. It means fluctuates but never sinks. Look, I'll even I wonder if I can flip the video. I can't. It'll show up backwards if I show it to you. Fluictur nec mergerter. I can't even say it. But I thought it was really cool when he said it. Fluctuates but never sinks. That should be your investment strategy. It's going to fluctuate, but you want to set it up to where it never sinks. You want to shoot for above 12%, 12, 16%. That's going to get you growth. That's going to keep you moving at 10 miles an hour. That's going to keep you moving at 15. Again, I appreciate you guys listening, and I will talk to you soon. Later.